Vice President of the United States has arrived and is being greeted by the host for today's observance, the Honorable Denis McDonough, Secretary of Veteran Affairs, and Major General Alan M. Pepin, Commanding General, Joint Task Force National Capital Region, and the United States Military District of Washington.
charge to your unit. Sergeant Cole. One. One. Out. One. Face. One. Forward. Arms. About. Face. Forward. Arms. All
Please rise for the arrival of the official party.
Band, stand by. Band, attend. Hut.
Please welcome Major General Alan M. Eppen, Commanding General of Joint Task Force National Capital Region in United States Military District of Washington, Ms. Karen Durham Aguilera, Executive Director, Army National Military Cemeteries in the Office of Army Cemeteries, Mr. Jack McManus, National President, Vietnam Veterans of America, and the Honorable Denis McDonough, Secretary of Veterans Affairs. Please welcome the Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris.
Gentlemen, please remain standing for the procession of our nation's colors and those of our veteran service organizations. As we march on the colors, the United States Navy Band will play the National Emblem March. Please place your hand over your heart and render a hand salute. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing for the invocation given by Chaplain Kimberly R. Willis, Executive Director of the National Chaplain Service for the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs.
Good morning. Let us pray. Most gracious and eternal God, we invite you into this sacred space where we gather in community on the hallowed grounds of the Memorial Amphitheater to acknowledge, to honor, to remember, and to express gratitude to those who have served in the armed forces, to defend the higher ideas of America's promise, of the unfettered value of human dignity and striving, in the pursuit and attainment of freedom, equality, and justice for all people. They have selflessly stood watch from generation to generation, to sea, to shining sea, and abroad, in the still of the night and the deadliest of storms, via air, land, sea, and space, to ensure that the hope inherent to the city on the hill could be realized in the least and the greatest. Their call to duty did not come without sacrifice, and we thank you that you are the God of intimate connection, who knows each veteran and their families by name, and to whom you have issued your own promise to never leave nor forsake. You are a God that not only sees their woundedness and hears their cries, but a God of devoted action who heals even in the darkest moments of the anguish of those who yet carry the visible and invisible wounds of war. You are the God who visits the hushed harbors, where the secret things of their heart reside. You are also the God who dwells at the Wailing Wall, providing comfort to those who mourn the loss of their mentored angels, who have paid the ultimate sacrifice for a grateful nation. God, today, we pray that the sacrifices of our veterans serve as a beacon for every individual to take personal account and responsibility for the preservation of this great experiment called democracy, the uplift of this sovereign nation, and the human flourishing of all of its inhabitants. Now, may God bless the veteran service organizations who champion the cause of veterans and reminds us that no person is left behind, the families and caregivers of our veterans who companion them in their journey, and the Department of Veteran Affairs who faithfully binds the wounds of military service and facilitates the mental, physical, and spiritual well-being of all veterans. Finally, may God bless each of you, and may God bless the United States of America.
Now, I'd like to invite Mr. Jack McManus, National President, Vietnam Veterans of America, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Protocol for this occasion is to stand and place your hand over your heart or render a hand salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. It is now my distinct privilege to introduce the members of the Veterans Day National Committee. The committee was formed by presidential order in 1954 to plan this annual observance in honor of America's veterans and to support Veterans Day observances throughout the nation. Please hold your applause until I have introduced each special guest. If you're able, please stand when your name is called. Mr. Jack McManus, National President, Vietnam Veterans of America. Mr. Timothy M. Borland, Commander-in-Chief, Veterans of Foreign Wars of the United States. Mr. James E. Robbins, Jr., National President, Fleet Reserve Association. Mr. Don McLean, National Commander, AMVETS. Miss Arlene Baker, National Commander, Army and Navy Union, United States of America. Retired United States Navy Fleet Master Chief, Paul A. Kingsbury, President, Non-Commissioned Officers Association of the United States. Miss Patricia Harris, National Vice Commander, the American Legion. Mr. Chris Vedvik, National Commander, Military Order of the Purple Heart. Retired United States Marine Corps Sergeant Major Johnny Baker, National Commandant and CEO, Marine Corps League. Retired United States Army Chaplain Brigadier General Robert Pliskowski, National President, Military Chaplains Association of the United States of America. Retired United States Marine Corps Corporal Charles Brown, National President, Paralyzed Veterans of America. Mr. Donald Marks, National Adjutant, Legion of Valor of the United States. Retired United States Army Lieutenant Colonel Michael A. Oken, MD, Commander-in-Chief, Military Order of the World Wars. Retired United States Navy Chief Petty Officer Deborah Elshig, National President, the Retired Enlisted Association. Mr. Brian Thacker, DC Agent and Medal of Honor recipient, Congressional Medal of Honor Society of the United States. Mr. Joe Parsetich, National Commander, Disabled American Veterans. Retired Air Force Colonel Jim O'Brien, Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer, Military Officers Association of America. Commander Christy Purdy, Chair, Board of Directors, Commissioned Officers Association of the U.S. Public Health Service. Retired United States Air Force Chief Master Sergeant Carrie Wright, International President, Air Force Sergeants Association. Mr. Michael Stetz, National Commander, Polish Legion of American Veterans. Mr. Jeffrey J. Brodeur, National President, Korean War Veterans Association of the United States. Mr. Luis A. Vasquez Contiz, National Commander, American GI Forum of the United States. Mr. Joseph D. McNeil, Sr., National President, Blinded Veterans Association. Mr. Nelson Melitz, National Commander, Jewish War Veterans of the United States of America. The associate and emeritus members of the committee are located to my front right. I'd like to ask the presidents and national commanders who comprise our associate and emeritus membership to stand and be recognized. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in recognizing our veterans' national leadership with your applause. It is now my pleasure to introduce the Executive Director, Army National Military Cemeteries and the Office of Army Cemeteries, Miss Karen Durham Aguilera.
Good morning. What a beautiful day. Yes, every day is a beautiful day here at Arlington National Cemetery. On behalf of the Secretary of the Army, Honorable Wormuth, and the dedicated men and women who serve here, welcome to Arlington National Cemetery. I would especially like to extend a warm welcome to Madam Vice President Kamala Harris. Thank you. Thank you for being with us and honor our nation's veterans. I also welcome Secretary of Veteran Affairs, Honorable McDonough, Vietnam Veterans Association, Mr. Jack McManus, Secretary of Defense, Honorable Lloyd Austin, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark Milley. And to our visiting dignitaries, our cabinet secretaries, our service secretaries, our service chiefs, our veterans, families, and everyone watching across our great nation, thank you. Thank you for being with us today. I can think of no better place to honor our veterans than here at the very center of our nation's most hallowed grounds. We gather to recognize the honor, integrity, duty, courage, and patriotism of our service members, past and present. While today is a day of remembrance, it is also a day of celebration. At Arlington National Cemetery, we have a sacred obligation to care for our veterans in their final place of rest. Yet we also hold the great honor and responsibility of sharing their stories and educating future generations about their services and their sacrifices. Veterans have shaped the history of our nation. At Arlington National Cemetery, we proudly and humbly treat every day like Veterans Day. These grounds represent the lives of over 400,000 soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Coast Guardmen, Space Force, and families who have served in times of both peace and war. The theme for Veterans Day this year is honor, and everything we do here on these grounds intends to honor and remember our nation's veterans. At Arlington National Cemetery, we work every day to honor our veterans interred or inurned here by maintaining these hallowed grounds in impeccable condition, by educating and providing interpretation of the cemetery's rich history, both in person and virtually, and by the honors we bestow to our nation's veterans during funeral services and at the tomb of the unknown soldier. Those who have served or are currently serving our country in any capacity here or overseas, you are seen, you are celebrated, and you are recognized for your contributions. You're among the courageous few who raised your right hand and answered the call. We are forever indebted to you. I would also like to thank spouses, parents, family members, and the Gold Star community for your tireless commitment in supporting your service members. Today and every day for over 158 years, Arlington National Cemetery is honored to serve our veterans and families of these most hallowed grounds. We are a great people, honoring service and sacrifice to a grateful nation. And the U.S. military people and families are its greatest strength. No place at Arlington can ever be purchased. Each must be earned. Veterans, this day and every day here at Arlington National Cemetery belongs to you. Thank you again, and welcome to Arlington National Cemetery.
I would now like to introduce our Veterans Service Organization host for 2022, the Vietnam Veterans of America. The Vietnam Veterans of America is honored to serve as this year's host organization for the 2022 Veterans Day National Commemoration at Arlington National Cemetery. Vietnam Veterans of America's record of achievement is a profile of tenacity and effectiveness. In January 1978, a small group of Vietnam veteran activists came to Washington, D.C. to create an advocacy organization that would push for action of the unmet needs of their fellow Vietnam veterans. Today, Vietnam Veterans of America, the only congressionally chartered veterans service organization dedicated to Vietnam-era veterans and their families, has a national membership of 89,000 with more than 600 chapters. Vietnam Veterans of America state councils coordinate the activities of local chapters in 48 states, Puerto Rico, Guam, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. The organization's ambitious agenda has always aimed to find creative, responsive solutions to concerns of Vietnam-era veterans, while at the same time fulfilling the Vietnam Veterans of America founding principle that never again will one generation of veterans abandon another. Vietnam Veterans of America will always work to make sure that those who serve our nation receive the care and treatment they have earned. The Vietnam Veterans of America is represented today by their national president. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Jack McManus.
Thank you. Madam Vice President, First Lady, Dr. Biden, Mr. Secretary, Chaplain, distinguished guests, and my fellow veterans. It's a great privilege for Vietnam Veterans of America to serve as the host at the Arlington National 69th commemorative celebration of Veterans Day. In our Vietnam veterans speak, welcome home. Today we recognize 19 million living veterans, our soldiers, sailors, airmen, guardians, Marines, Coast Guardsmen, whom we owe a great debt of gratitude for the freedoms we have as a nation. We remember and honor our heroes who made the ultimate sacrifice in the name of liberty and justice. And we honored their spouses, parents, survivors, many of whom are with us here today. To our comrades who remain missing in action, we remain true to our solemn promise to bring you home. May God bless you and your families. We've come a long way since 1978 when Vietnam Vets had its start. As members, chapters, state councils work hard in their communities and with their legislators to ensure that all veterans receive the respect and gratitude that they so rightly deserve. We have lived up to our founding principle, never again will one generation of veterans abandon another. We are especially proud to see that our fight to change the public perception of Vietnam veterans has paid off, and that our newest generations of veterans are coming home to a warm welcome from a very supportive country. Thank you. To divide one veteran's service based upon the distinction in time or location at the expense of another veteran's equally honorable service is an injustice to all veterans. Could we really believe that the veterans lost in the Beirut barracks or at the embassy in Benghazi were any less of a sacrifice than those lost in Fallujah or in Khe Sanh, Vietnam? If our nation and all its institutions had simply recognized my generation of veterans as deserving in the honor and distinction of being recognized as an American veteran, as were previous veterans, albeit from more popular hostilities that came before us, it is likely VVA never would have come into existence. As Vietnam veterans, we fought for the first laws assisting veterans from the diseases and the maladies of Agent Orange. We are ecstatic with the recent passage of the PACT Act, the most comprehensive bill to address the health effects of military toxic exposures. We do know this adage to be true. The willingness which our young men and women are likely to serve in any war is directly proportional to how they perceive the veterans in the past and today are treated and appreciated by the nation. We have come a long way. Much remains to be done. The future of our nation is dependent on the young women and men who raise their hands to uphold the Constitution of the United States. There is little to be angry or little to complain about now with the way veterans are treated by our nation. And that's largely because of the way our leadership treats us and how the Department of Veterans Affairs has become so transparent and so efficient, and because of the leadership of their secretary, it's my honor to introduce the Secretary of the Department of Veterans Affairs, Denis McDonough.
Jack, thank you very, very much. Madam Vice President, Mr. Imhoff, Secretary Austin, and teammates from the Cabinet. Most of all, veterans, your families, caregivers, survivors. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining our country's annual Veterans Day celebration. Today is a day to honor veterans, to remember all that they have done for our nation, for each of us, to reflect on those heroes still missing in action, heroes whom we miss, we love, long for, and hope to see come home, and soon. And recognize that when veterans served, their families, their caregivers, survivors sacrificed right alongside them. And Veterans Day is something more. It's a call to action for each of us to serve vets every bit as well as they have served us. On Veterans Day, indeed, every day. Because as President Biden has said and reminded us again this morning, veterans are the very backbone of this country. They put profit and self-interest aside. They put their lives on the line so that the highest ideals of this nation, our core values, might continue. And the thing is, veterans don't only keep those ideals alive by serving our country in uniform and fighting our nation's wars. They also do it long after the last bullets of war have been fired, by serving with steadfast courage and selflessness, like the selflessness of the Vietnam vets of America that Jack just talked about, right here at home. Think about it. When our country needed someone to finally break the color barrier in Major League Baseball, it was Lieutenant Jack Robinson who did it, with his talent only exceeded by his courage, discipline, and determination. When our country needed to win the space race, it was Lieutenant J.G. Neil Armstrong who planted his foot on the moon in that giant leap for this nation and for all mankind. When our country needed to heal after Vietnam, it was Corporal Jan Scruggs who created the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Wall and helped open the nation's hearts to the heroic service of Jack and his fellow Vietnam vets. When our country needed, for the first time, to embrace the needs and challenges of disabled American kids, it was World War II veteran Dr. Samuel Kirk, the father of special education, who led that historic change. And when we needed to be educated on the effects of toxic exposure on the battlefield, Specialist 4 Kelly Kennedy told human stories of suffering service members, veterans, and families, including the 11 families I heard about over breakfast this morning, so we would not forget. Those stories, those vets, Robinson, Armstrong, Scruggs, Kirk, Kennedy, Those are the vets you already know. But there are many more vets just like them, whose names we may not know, but whose impact resonates in every community across the country. You see, when the country needs something difficult done, when we need to do the hard thing, the right thing, so often it's veterans who answer the call. Whether defending our nation overseas or strengthening the fabric of our communities here at home, their honorable service, your honorable service in uniform sets the example for the rest of the country. They're the caretakers of our national ethos. That deep and abiding sense of purpose they learned in serving. Their camaraderie, their determination, their sense of teamwork that made them stronger together in combat and now in their communities. That's exactly what we need today. Camaraderie, truth, togetherness, true service, true patriotism, because we are indeed all stronger when we're together, when we're one. Simply put, through their service, their selflessness, veterans teach us, remind us what it truly means to be an American. It's something all of us, each of us, can learn from. And for that, we're forever in your debt. Madam Vice President, last year at the Celebration of America, you reinforced that ethos that veterans exemplify. You encouraged us, as you said, to believe in what we can do together. And with your and President Biden's leadership, your and his tireless advocacy, this country together is doing so much for veterans. We're grateful for your leadership, for your unrelenting advocacy on behalf of veterans, their families, their caregivers, their survivors. With that, it is my great honor to introduce the Vice President of the United States of America, Kamala Harris.
Good morning. Good morning. To Secretary Denis McDonough, I thank you for the work that you have been doing so tirelessly. It is noble and important work. First Lady Dr. Jill Biden, Second Gentleman Doug Emhoff, Secretary Lloyd Austin, and members of our cabinet, General Mark Milley, and service chiefs, leaders, and members of veteran service organizations, and all of the distinguished guests. Good morning and thank you. And in particular to our veterans, service members, families, caregivers, and survivors, it is a profound privilege to thank and honor you today and every day. So we gather to pay homage to all those who have served our nation in uniform, at home and overseas, in times of war and in times of peace. Generations of veterans defended our country and our most sacred values, from the fields of Yorktown to the trenches of the Marne, from the beaches of Normandy to the banks of the Chosin Reservoir and the streets of Saigon, from Baghdad to Fallujah to Kandahar. You stood as one to protect our democracy and our freedom. And even when you returned home and took off your uniform, you continued to serve and to lead in communities across our country. Veterans, after all, are nurses and firefighters, Little League coaches and small business owners, faith leaders and elected officials, mentors and teachers. Every day, through your life's work, and your example, you make America stronger. And on Veterans Day, we come together as a nation then to express our profound gratitude for all you have done and continue to do. Here, on hallowed ground, we also remember those who gave their lives for our nation. We remember our service members who have not yet returned and their families, and we reaffirm our commitment to bring home all those missing in action. Veterans represent the best of America. Unwavering courage, unmatched talent, and unshakable devotion. You come from every corner of our country, and out of many, you become one, the greatest fighting force in the world. As Vice President at the DMZ in Korea, aboard ships in the Indo-Pacific, at SOCOM and CENTCOM in Florida, and on NATO's eastern flank, I have seen firsthand how America's armed forces protect the highest ideals of our nation around the world. Since 1789, American service members have sworn an oath not to a person, not to a party, but to the Constitution of the United States, to support and defend the principles of liberty, equality, and justice, to preserve and protect our democracy. Veterans, you're the one who answered the call. And in so doing, you left often the people you love and the place you call home. You missed birthdays, holidays, and graduations. Some of you first met your newborn baby on a video chat. You risked everything, and you gave up so much to safeguard the lives and the liberty of people who you may never meet. To be a veteran is to have truly known the true cost of freedom and to have borne it for all of us. That is a debt that must always be remembered. And I believe it is a debt we must all work to repay. Back when I was Attorney General of California and then as a United States Senator, we fought to protect the health and well-being of our veterans and service members. And as Vice President, I am proud to serve alongside one of the greatest champions of our nation's warriors, our President Joe Biden. President Biden and I believe that as Americans, we have a sacred obligation to take care of our veterans and our military families. Fulfilling that obligation means making sure veterans can access the support and the resources they need to thrive. For example, it has meant connecting thousands of veterans with job training to help them leverage the skills and experience they gained while serving, to build a new career, and to strengthen America's workforce. Fulfilling that obligation also means taking on veteran homelessness. This year alone, we have placed 31,000 veterans in permanent housing, and we are on track to house thousands more by year end. Taking care of our veterans also means taking care of those who love them. Because while our veterans wore the uniform, they were not the only ones who served. And no one understands that better than Dr. Jill Biden. Through her leadership of joining forces, Dr. Biden fights for military families, caregivers, and survivors. And Dr. Biden, our nation applauds your extraordinary work. And taking care of our veterans means making sure that they receive the benefits they have rightly earned. Since we took office, we have worked to reduce the VA claims backlog by upgrading technology, hiring more claims processors, and streamlining evaluations. And as a result, this year, and under the leadership of the Secretary, we processed more VA claims than ever before in history. And we also came together, Democrats and Republicans, to support millions of veterans exposed to toxic substances while working and living near burn pits and other dangerous environments. The PACT Act, as has been mentioned, is the most significant expansion of health care and benefits for veterans and their survivors in 3 decades. And it was passed because of the leadership of our president and because of the leadership of so many of you, and we are indebted to you for that hard work and success. So a few months ago, I received a letter from Lieutenant Travis Akers. So Lieutenant Akers wrote about a friend and a fellow sailor, Lieutenant Chris Reed. Lieutenant Reed served our nation in Afghanistan and Iraq, and he worked as a Navy EOD officer near a burn pit. Tragically, Lieutenant Reed passed away in 2018 from leukemia. He is buried here in Arlington, Section 60, Plot 11854. Lieutenant Akers fought for the PACT Act in his friend's memory. He advocated, he testified, and thanks to him and so many veterans like him, our nation is one step closer to living up to our highest ideals. So all of that to say, America is a promise of security, opportunity, and freedom, not for some, but for all. On Veterans Day, we celebrate the generations of Americans who fought to make that promise real. And we recognize, to truly honor our veterans, we must come together as a nation to defend that promise too. So on that point, I will conclude by sharing the words of Private First Class Abe Laurie, one of the many veterans joining us today. So Abe served our nation in World War II. He was a member of the 58th QM Sales Company of the United States Army. From 1943 to 1946, Abe traveled across England, France, and Belgium, going from camp to camp to outfit the men and women fighting to free Europe and the world. In his travels, Abe met thousands of Americans. They came from towns and cities he had never heard of. And yet, as he tells it, even if they only crossed paths for a moment, Abe felt a connection with each. And he said, and I'm quoting Abe, he said, "In the service, we were one people." One people. E pluribus unum, out of many, one. And that is the story of our armed forces. And it is the story of our nation. That is who we are. That is who we must be. One nation, united for liberty, united for equality, united for democracy. One nation, united to preserve and strengthen the freedoms our veterans gave so much to defend. May God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing and join the United States Navy Band Sea Chanters Chorus in singing "God Bless America." Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing as we retire the colors. Please place your hand over your heart or render a hand salute. Retire the colors. concludes the 2022 National Veterans Day observance. Please remain standing for the departure of the Vice President of the United States and the official party. Thank you for joining us today to celebrate and honor all who served.